Shalom Aleichem. Mishnah Yomi is in Eduyot, chapter 2, Mishnah 2. Amar Rabbi Chanina Sgan Kohanim. Again, as we mentioned yesterday, this Rabbi Chanina was the deputy director of Kohanic activities at the Beit HaMikdash, and he observed what they were doing in the temple, and then he later testified to what the practices were there. He says, Miyamai, in all my days, lo ra'iti, I never saw, or the hide of an animal, yotze lebeit hasreifa, that was taken out to be burned. Now, of course, some invalid karbanot, sometimes the hide is actually burnt along with the meat. What he means is a bechor animal, a firstborn male animal of a cow or a sheep or a goat. It automatically becomes a carbon bechor. It must be given to a kohen, and if it is an unblemished animal, the kohen takes it to the Beis HaMikdash and brings it as a carbon. And the Kohen can eat parts of the meat and can also take the hide. So when they would strip off the hide, that was typically a bechor animal, and the Kohen would be able to keep the hide and take it home. However, if the animal became tameh, or there's something wrong with the shechita or the avoda, then in theory you might have to burn the hide. But he says no, they never burned the hide. Even if there was an issue with the animal, the Kohen was able to keep the hide. Amar Rabbi Akiva says, Midvorav lamando. From his words we see shemafshita the bechor, when they skinned the hide off a bechor animal, v'nimsa treifa, and then they discovered this animal's a treifa and it can't be a valid offering, it can't be a carbon. She'otu a kohanim ba'oro. The kohanim can still have benefit from the hide, even though they can't enjoy the meat of their carbon. The chachamim omrim, but the other sages say, this is really amazing, ein lo ra'inu raya. You can't say, I never saw, is a proof. So Rabbi Chanina Sgan Kohanim said, I never saw this. That doesn't necessarily mean it never happened. Maybe there was never a bechor that was a treifa while he was on duty. Or maybe it happened, but he never was around to see it. So they say that's not a proof. Ela yotze lebeit hasreifa. If there's a problem with the bechor, the Kohen does not get to keep the hide. It goes and is burnt. Let's go on to Mishnah Gimel. Afhu, he also, He'id, testified al kfar koton, about a small town, shachaya b'tzad Yerushalayim, next to Yerushalayim. Haybo zaken echad, there was an elderly sage living in this town. The haya molve l'chol b'nei kfar, he had money also, so he would lend out money to his fellow villagers. But this is interesting. V'kotev b'ktav yado, he would write the loan document in his own handwriting, and then he would give it to the borrowers. The borrowers would have other people sign as witnesses, and then give him back the document their loan. And that's not normal. Usually the lender isn't the one writing the loan document, because then there's a chance a lender is going to start writing all sorts of loan documents and getting signatures on them and make it look like people owe him more money than he actually is owed. This incident came to the sages, v'hitiru. And other girsa says, they said this was a kosher thing he was doing. He was a trusted individual. There were no signatures on what he was writing. Other people were signing it. Lefi darkecha talamed, and according to this derech, according to this approach, we do learn also, we can extrapolate, she'isha kotevet et gita. A woman can write her own document of divorce, and then she would give it to the husband, and then he would give it back to her to effect the divorce. Ve'ish kotev at shavro, the man can write his own receipt, even though he's going to have to give it to the wife, and she'll give it to him when he pays up the ketuvah. She'ein kiyum get ele bechotmav, the kiyum of the document, be it a loan or an actual get or ketuvah, is affected by the signature. Now that reminds us of Gittin. In Gittin, we had a machlokis. Is the signature what makes the document valid, or is the witnesses to the giving over of the paperwork what makes it valid? So that was like Rabbi Meir says the signature. It might even be Rabbi Elazar if he says the ones who are giving it over are also signing on it. And he adds another case. If they were cutting up an animal in the temple to be a carbon, and they found a big needle stuck into the meat, and they realized this needle was tameh beforehand. The animal is definitely tameh because it's in touch with a tameh, a contaminated needle. But the sakin, the knife they're using to butcher the animal, via daim, the hands of the Kohen who's the butcher, tahorot, they're still considered pure because we don't know they touched the needle. Obviously, if they did touch the needle, they would be impure. A basar tameh, but the flesh cannot be eaten. It's no longer a valid carbon. Im nitzet perish, but if the needle was found in the waste product of the animal, or you understand floating around in his kishkas, it's not in contact with the meat, hakol tahor, then everything, even the animal, would still be okay. Yeshar kochachem, tizku the mitzvot.